Okay, so here we are live once again, and we've got an Eagle Force figure to open. I got three of these on Saturday that I'd pre-ordered from Big Bad Toy Store like 2 years ago. So it was nice that they finally showed up. But I've been looking forward to these figures for a long time. You might remember that a while back, I had opened up this fella here, and they are in resealable packaging, so I was able to put them back into the package. But I had this guy, Blockhead, was the first one I'd gotten, and he came a while back, and he's an homage, obviously, to Charlie Brown. So I like that figure. And I was really happy with that figure, so I was really looking forward to the rest of them. And wow, I hope they show up soon. Well, they eventually showed up. I moved and had to change my address since then, but they eventually showed up. So this guy here is Count Ironmoon, and I have two more that we're going to open up this week. And tomorrow I will do the Legionnaire. And I have this guy who is in a fancy box, and that is Frank Walsh. So those are the other two that I have to open, and I'm probably going to try to get more of these in the near future. Because, like I said, I really liked Blockhead, and these figures, I haven't had a chance to actually open them up yet, but they look pretty impressive to me. So got a nice piece of artwork there. Nice classic comic book style artwork. The villainous Count Ironmoon with two of these pistols. It says, Count Ironmoon, Crimson Moon Leader. What is Crimson Moon, you ask? Well, there's the bio on the back, so we can find out. So it says at the top, the long-retired Captain Eagle is recruited back into act former teammate General Brown. Together, they enlist a new generation of Eagle Force team members to combat the re-emerging forces of Riot, a terrorist organization driven by a desire for total global domination. I almost just said global domination, but no, it's total global domination, not just partial global domination, where it's like, I think it'll be fine if we just, don't bother with Antarctica, because nobody actually, lives down there except for people on ice bases and stuff like that. We'll be fine with the rest of the continents. No. We need Antarctica too. Gotta watch out for them penguins. There's enough penguins in Antarctica that if they decided to lead a revolt against the human race, they'd outnumber us. So I don't know if that's actually true or not. So it says here, Count Ironmoon, Crimson Moon Leader, team affiliation, Crimson Moon. Well, that's good since he's the Crimson Moon Leader. It would be a shame if the Crimson Moon Leader was not affiliated with the Crimson Moon organization. Modern day era, 2002 to present. And yeah, it says that on Blockheads also, and of course it should obviously say so on the Legionnaire. So one thing I've noticed as I've been looking, because I have read the bios on these already, and Frank Walsh has a lot of text on his. We'll get into him in a couple of days, but yeah, there is a very deep storyline going on here with lots of lore that stretches far back, and from what I can gather, this ties in with the original Eagle Force continuity that would have come from the comic strips that would have been on the backs of. Yes, I do collect McFarlane, and I have a bunch of reviews of McFarlane figures on my channel. Most of the McFarlane stuff that I've opened up so far has been DC stuff, both the multiverse and the superpowers figures. So thanks for asking a good question. But yeah, there was comic strips on the backs of the original Mego Eagle Force figures, and they had a continuity built on that, and apparently this is built off of that and takes place in real time. So the modern era starts at 2002 to present. So kind of interesting. Anyway, got some cross-cell artwork on the back here with various characters. Got Count Ironmoon, the Gorgills, Kiloward, Legionnaire, Leon Kelly, and Maverick. And like with Blockhead, these are mostly homages to characters that we already know. Count Ironmoon, the Gorgils, the Kilowog, and the Legionnaire are all homages to the old Action Force line from Palitoy in England in the 1980s. It was their precursor to the 3 3/4 inch GI Joe, even though we didn't get it over here. But it was their attempt to bring GI Joe, or Action Man, as he was called in the United Kingdom. Their attempt to bring Action Man into the 3 3/4 inch action figure style, and they were kind of like Star Wars figures, but modern military and some sci-fi mixed in. Obviously, the Gorgil is very much of a sci-fi character, but the Kilowog, Legionnaire, and Count Ironmoon are all homages to the villains of the Action Force line, which were called the Crimson Shadows, I believe. No, the Red Shadows. I'm sorry, the Red Shadows. Crimson Moon threw me off. But yeah, we're gonna talk more about that after I open up the Legionnaire. 3 3/4 inch Star Wars figures are my favorite. Well, that was where a lot of us started, isn't it? Like, I know some of my earliest action figures were those the original Kenner Star Wars action figures, and I loved them. Had almost all of them. I think there was a few like towards the end of the line that I didn't have, like the Power of the Force era. Like, I was never able to find the R2D2 with the where he shot out the lightsaber. I was never able to find that one, unfortunately. I had the Imperial Dignitary. I was able to find that one. So, yay. But yeah, I've long been a fan of the old Action Force figures, and I don't have many of them because I live in the United States. I was lucky that at the GI Joe convention, Joe Lanta, Toylanta, as it's now called, I ran into a guy from the United Kingdom, and he was able to sell me. I think it was Skip was the character's name, who was kind of modeled after the Green Beret figure. So I liked that one, but I never got, say, like Baron Iron Blood or anything like that. So this is going to be exciting for me. So the package is resealable, so we can just take the card out like that. Now let's go ahead and read the bio. Count Ironmoon's odyssey began in the Transylvanian mountains, where he explored arcane arts and alchemy. Uncovering lycanthropy's secrets, his mastery attracted Ultima Thule of Riot, seeking his skills. Ironmoon joined as a strategist, using his scientific prowess to concoct diabolical schemes. With the Crimson Moon, a loyal faction of werewolves and other creatures of terror at his command, Count Ironmoon embraced his dark destiny as lunar leader of chaos and terror. Pretty cool, huh? So, Count Ironmoon is somewhat based on visually, not like character-wise. He's got a completely different history, but visually, he's somewhat based on Baron Ironblood from the Action Force line, who is the original villain of that line. And interesting fact about Baron Ironblood: when they brought the American GI Joe figures over to the UK and made that part of their Action Force line, then it was decided that Cobra would then be the main villains of Action Force instead of the Red Shadows. So they had Baron Ironblood decided that the Red Shadows organization had run its course, and he was going to start a new organization called Cobra, and he made himself a new identity as Cobra Commander. So in that version, Baron Ironblood and Cobra Commander are the same character. And then since he decided that the usefulness of the Red Shadows organization was at an end, he betrayed them and killed them all off in favor of his new Cobra army. So pretty ruthless guy, that Baron Ironblood. Anyway, so there we got the figure out of the package, and from the neck down, this guy is very similar to Baron Ironblood. Lil Zay says, I just bought the DC Multiverse McFarlane Dark Side and the left leg broke. Oh, that's horrible. I'll have to be careful with mine when I'm able to get that, because I'm looking forward to that figure. I've wanted a classic Dark Side. I've got the actually got them right here. I got the movie version, and the movie version's pretty cool, but I still really want the classic comic book version. That's the one that I prefer. So the head sculpt is obviously different from the original Baron Ironblood. He's got jet black hair and an eye patch, whereas the original Baron Ironblood had white hair and a dark mustache and little soul patch goatee type thing, and look completely different from this guy, at least from the neck up. But there's a reason for that. Again, I'm going to get into that tomorrow when they open up the Legionnaire. So let's go ahead and have a look at his accessories before we get down to the figure itself. And he's got like a whole bunch of accessories. So I'm going to take them out. And first of all, within the baggie with the accessories, there's another baggie that has some accessories. And that's 2 alternate heads. So let's go ahead and have a look at those. And the alternate heads that we have are, we have a werewolf head, which is really cool. Really love that werewolf head. That's pretty great. Got a great snarly expression on his face, and a lot of good detail to it. A lot of good paint detail. He's got black fur lined around his whole head, and fangs and nasty expression on his face. And then this head is based off of the Crimson or the Red Shadows. So it's got like kind of like a Nazi type helmet and a faceplate and a black eye slit with some white eyes in it. And this to me looks like the head that was designed for Red Laser, where they originally used the Cobra Commander mold in red and repainted the head so it had this sort of black visor on it. So it looks kind of similar to that. So we've got alternate heads where we can give him a helmeted head. So there's what he looks like with the helmeted head. Pretty cool. And the werewolf head. The werewolf head, I think, is the coolest one. So Count Ironmoon is a werewolf. In addition to being a terrorist leader, that wasn't quite enough for him. He had to be a werewolf too. So the rest of the accessories, I'm going to dump them out here on my desk, and we'll go over those real quick. So like with Blockhead, Baron Ironmoon comes with some alternate hands. So we have 2 of these open hands, open glove hands with black gloves, one for the left, one for the right. And then we have 2 solid fist hands with black gloves. Again, one for the left, one for the right. The werewolf head is indeed sick. I'm a fan. And then 2 of these gripping hands, both with black gloves. So that's all the extra black glove hands. By the way, the hands that are on him are black gloved with trigger guards, or trigger fingers, I'm sorry. So he can hold them pistols. Let's go ahead and put the pistols in his hands so we can see him holding those. And then we'll move on to the last pair of hands. So here he is with 2 pistols. Let me make sure I got the trigger fingers through the trigger guards. And these are really cool pistols. They're kind of like stylized laser pistols in the Flash Gordon style. Is the red on the figure dual molded or is it painted? It looks to me as if it's painted. Like, I'm looking in the backpack hole. He does have a backpack hole, and I can see white plastic down at the bottom. So yeah, it looks to me like it's painted. Does he come apart at the middle? Some of these figures come apart at the middle. It looks like he does. Yeah. So much like with it's the same way that a Marauder Task Force figure comes apart in the middle with the ball joint there. So And his parts should be compatible with Marauder, by the way. So probably what I'm going to do is, since he's got the extra werewolf parts, is I'll probably get some kind of Marauder Task Force body to put the werewolf parts onto. So at least for one of these figures, because I think it'd be cool just to have a werewolf and get one of like the dress shirt type bodies and put it on those. I think that would look pretty cool. So take those pistols out of his hands. And unfortunately, there does not seem to be any kind of holsters or anything on this figure for him to hold the pistols when he's not using them. That would be really cool, but unfortunately, does not seem to be the case. But hey, if you're going to order some stuff from Marauder anyway for this guy, might as well go ahead and order some white pistol holsters. Drill like a small hole on either side, and you can pop those Marauder pistol holsters in there. I think I might do that. That might be a cool thing to do. So would have been nice if they had the foresight to do that, though. But oh well. So the last pair of hands, which I'm going to go ahead and put in, since we've already got the werewolf head in there, is he's got some werewolf hands. There we go. Got those popped in there, and those look pretty nice. Got some claws on them, and they painted in the claws black, so that's cool. Unfortunately, there's no fur on the werewolf hands, which would be nice. But at least he's got some werewolf hands. And since the werewolf hands do have a trigger finger, you can have him be a werewolf with a laser pistol. How about that? So let's go ahead and we'll have him dual wield with the laser pistols. But yeah, they are really reminiscent of like a Flash Gordon laser pistol. Since I happen to have right here the Boss Fight Studios Flash Gordon, the Power Stars version, let's go ahead and compare Flash Gordon's laser pistol to the Power Stars version. The Power Stars Flash Gordon laser pistol here, and the Eagle Force one, and you can see how similar they are. They're not identical, obviously. You're not going to get them mixed up or anything, but you can see what I'm talking about. Where it's that same sort of Flash Gordon type aesthetic, which I always like that the diesel punk kind of look. So anyway, let's go ahead and set his pistols aside again, and we're going to put the black gloved hands back in there. They pop out rather easily, although I would recommend being careful with them and making sure when you pull them out, make sure you grip them where the hinge is in the hand to make sure you don't pull the hand out. So make sure you get a firm grip on where the hinge is. Pull it out by the hinge. Don't pull it out by like the fingers or anything like that, because that's how you can wind up breaking them. And then we'll go ahead and pop the Count's human head back on. By the way, while I've got it off, let's go ahead and have a look at that neck there. And you can see the whole neck, it's black. So it looks like a high collar when he's got the human head on. And I definitely want to have the human head on for the last accessory to go over. Well, not quite the last accessory, but one more accessory after this. So he's got this red peaked cap, which of course that was what he was wearing on the artwork on the package. And there's what he looks like with the peaked cap, which makes him look like one of the bad guys in World War II. So, of course, back in the 80s, like even by then, the nasties were still pretty popular villains. You had them in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and of course the Empire in Star Wars was inspired by the nasties, and the Cobra was kind of vaguely inspired by them. They also had that same sort of Fritz helmet thing going on. And the Red Shadows were no exception. And in fact, like I said, the original Action Force figure was based on the UK's version of G.I. Joe, which was called Action Man. So they had World War II era figures in that line. And that means they had some nasties in there. So they did, when they made the Red Shadows, they did reuse the bodies from those figures and just made new heads for them, and that was how they made those characters. But we're going to talk more about this head tomorrow, because I kind of want to just talk about the whole thing with that at one time. So when I open up the Legionnaire, we're going to talk some more about this guy. So we're not quite done talking about Count Ironmoon just yet. So this is definitely a very cool figure, and he's got a lot of gear to work with. Like, maybe not so much in terms of weapons, and it would be nice, like I said, if he had some holsters so he could carry those pistols with him. Also, it would be nice, I think, if he came with an Uzi, but that's, again, something we'll discuss a little more tomorrow. The werewolf head is the rock star of this set as far as the accessories go. It's very cool, a lot of good paint detail. Like, it's a great werewolf head. I love that werewolf head. The werewolf hands are fairly decent, but I think they would be better if they had some fur on them. That's just me. Maybe I'm just being too particular, but I think they could have used some fur. And like with Blockhead, I'm glad that it came with a bunch of extra hands, so that gives you more display options. And like I always say, more display options are always a good thing. Let's go ahead and talk about the articulation before I bring this video to a close. All right, so this is pretty standard articulation as far as a modern 3 3/4 inch figure goes. If you've ever had a Marauder Task Force figure, or Chicken Fried Studios Dime Novel Legends, or the Boss Fight Studios, the Hacks, any of those type of lines, it's pretty similar articulation to that, and they seem pretty compatible with those as far as moving the parts around, like if you want to swap the parts around. But let's talk about the articulation a little bit. All right, so the head, I'm going to take the cap off just to make sure I don't drop it or anything. So the head rotates all the way around. It can look up about that far, look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, move it really any which way around you want, because it's on a ball joint. And it is just a ball joint, but the ball joint itself is on a ball joint and moves around on the neck that way. So that's a little bonus. Like, I think the Boss Fight Hacks do that, but a lot of them just kind of have a peg there. So the arm rotates all the way around the shoulder, arms move up about that far, so great range of motion on the arms as far as moving them up. That's about as good as you could ask for. Rest down at the side about like that. He does have a single joint at the elbow, which rotates all the way around, and it's on a hinge, so it can move back about that far and forward about that far, a little more than 90 degrees. His wrists rotate all the way around, and the trigger hands that come on the figure have a vertical hinge that moves up and down, which is what I prefer to have on a gun hand. And it looks like the open hands are on a horizontal hinge, which moves from side to side. Same with the fist hands, and the other gripping hands, like you use for like gripping a knife or something, those are on a vertical hinge. And the werewolf hands look to be on a horizontal hinge. So that's how all of those work. He's got a ball joint at the waist, so you can rotate the waist all the way around and move it any which way you want. It's pretty similar to an 80s G.I. Joe figure. However, it's not on an O-ring, it's on a ball joint. But it does move in a very similar way to that. Legs can kick up about that far, can kick back about that far. So not the best as far as kicking back, but good enough. He can do the splits, no problem. And then we do have a thigh cut, which is nice to have. You don't always get that on a 3 3/4 inch figure, but this one does have a thigh cut. Got some double jointed knees, so the knees bend all the way back like that. And his ankle looks to be on a neat little ball joint, kind of similar to what you have on a McFarlane figure. So the ankle rotates all the way around, both at where the ankle meets the boot and where the ankle meets the foot. So and then toe can kick down about that far, toe can kick up about that far. So that's about the range of motion you get on the feet. So great range of motion on this guy. And that's like I talked about with Blockhead. So that's going to be pretty standard, I think, for what we can come to expect in the Eagle Force line. So I'm going to put both of his pistols back in his hands, and I'm going to put the peak cap back on his head now that I'm done playing around with him. And that seems to be like Count Ironmoon's default mode. So there we go. That is the character as he's depicted on the packaging, anyway. So, and he's got the last accessory is the Eagle Force stand. Like I say, every figure should come with an action figure stand. And wow, this is neat. I didn't notice this. So our boy actually has not one but two sets of peg holes on his feet. So you've got one that's a little bigger, more of like an 80s action figure peg, and one that's a little smaller, one that's more like a Power of the Force 2 size peg. And since they're both on feet and they're both on these stands, we can go ahead and put one on each foot. How about that? So you can set them up on a play set that's got the bigger size pegs or the smaller size pegs. You don't have to be stuck with just one or the other. Count Ironmoon is a very impressive action figure. I think he's impressive enough just in his, terrorist leader mode, but you can also turn him into a werewolf. He's also a werewolf. And if you wanted to buy multiples of these guys, you could also use him as an army builder. Put the helmet on his head, and these could be like his crack elite troops or something. They do have a few different army builders in the Crimson Moon team. Legionnaire is technically supposed to be an army builder, and the Kill Award obviously is supposed to be an army builder. So you can, I believe that those both come with Red Shadows type helmets. So you could build a Red Shadows style army if you wanted to, or you could have them all be werewolves, or have them change back and forth. A lot of cool stuff you can do with these. Eagle Force is turning out to be a pretty cool line, and I'm pretty happy with it. So, and I've been a big fan of 3 3/4 inch action figures all my life. I love the G.I. Joe Classified line. And you've seen me open a bunch of those on this channel, but for me, like 3 3/4 inch is always kind of like my classic G.I. Joe scale. That's the one I'm always going to think of. Yeah, older guys than me would go to the 12 inch, and like I'm sure kids today, their dads are introducing them to G.I. Joe, probably mostly, but they're getting a taste of that 6 inch figure. So that'll probably be like 20, 30 years from now, grown men will be like, well, the Classified was obviously like the best one, and for me, it's always going to be like 3 3/4 inch. I really like the vintage line, but the 25th anniversary type figures, those are like I think my favorites, and this is pretty similar to that, but a little more 80s in the way that the torso is articulated. So that's pretty cool. I really like the Marauders / Chicken Fried Studios / Boss Fight / Fresh Monkey style of modern 3 3/4 inch action figure. I like that all these companies are, they're smaller companies, but they're kind of working together and, building a 3 3/4 inch action figure universe with various, lines and things like that. And they've got modern military covered with Marauder, and they've got like more mythical stuff like Greek mythology and medieval type eras with the boss fight hacks, and even some superhero stuff with the Zorro and Phantom and Tarzan and all those kind of Flash Gordon. Their 3 3/4 inch Flash Gordon figures have been excellent. And then you've got the Chicken Fried with the Western, and it just covers a lot of bases. And Eagle Force itself is got sci-fi and gothic horror and blaxploitation with Leon Kelly, obviously like a very John Shaft, Black Belt Jones inspired character, very Black Dynamite. I like that. Maverick is a character that, you know, anybody who's familiar with the old movie Megaforce with I'm trying to blank on his name, Brad from Rocky Horror. How can I forget? That guy's a good actor, and I'm forgetting his name. Ah, it's on the tip of my tongue. I met the guy. Crap. He was in Grease. He was the original Danny Zuko in Grease. I can't remember the name Danny Zuko. I can't remember. I'm just gonna look it up. Kicking myself. I can't remember this dude's name. Barry Bostwick. Barry Bostwick. Okay. That was going to drive me nuts. But yeah, the Barry Bostwick character in Megaforce, very similar to that. So yeah, Eagle Force gets my recommendation as far as 3 3/4 inch figures go. Now these are a little more expensive than a similar type of toy might be if it came out from one of the big toy companies. But I don't know, Hasbro's getting kind of ridiculously expensive with their Star Wars stuff. So, you know. But I want to say when they were doing, like, last time they did the retro figures for G.I. Joe that were in the modern articulation style, those were like $15, and these are about $27. So they're a little expensive, but they're nice figures, and I really like them. And like I said, you get a lot of bang for your buck with these extra parts. So these are toys that were made by people who clearly love action figures, and I can't recommend them enough. So I'm going to try to buy more in the future, but I don't know if I'll be able to afford to be a completist with this line. But man, I would really like to have Leon Kelly at the very least. Looking at the back here, Maverick would be really cool to have too. Any of these figures are really nice. I think the Gorgills, that should also be an army builder. So, and he's got like a creature from the Black Lagoon kind of feel, plus a little bit of that diesel punk there with the fishbowl helmet. So anyway, tomorrow I will be opening up the Legionnaire, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the influence of Action Force and the Red Shadows and Baron Ironblood when we talk about this guy and a couple other aspects of that. So looking forward to that. If you want to make sure you don't miss that episode, make sure you like and subscribe. All the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this figure. And we will talk to you next time. Bye.